Hey folks, James Abrenio coming to you from Abrenio Law, your Northern Virginia personal injury and criminal defense law firm. In this video, we're going to talk about expert witnesses in your personal injury claim. We're going to talk about how your doctors are really your star witnesses. So when you're involved in a car accident, if you're coming to me, it's typically because you've been severely injured. We typically handle catastrophic cases, so broken bones, surgery, lacerations to internal organs and things like that require more than just a visit to the ER. They require more than just a little bit of therapy. A lot of times they require orthopedics, they require neurologists, they require urologists and long-term care, a lot of times surgeries and things like that. And so a lot of times clients will ask me, well, how important are my doctors? How important and what role will they play? What role should they be helping out during treatment? And how will they ultimately play at the end of the day? And I tell people, look, in order to make a claim, I, the attorney, usually rest on my medicine. I depend on your expert witnesses to help memorialize your injuries and your treatment and your recovery. What diagnoses they had as a result of your accident, what treatments are they recommending, did you follow through those treatments and all that. But a big part of this is also their commitment later on to help us out in court. I find that if we're going to get you a good result, the best way to do that is to demonstrate that we're ready to try your case. And a big part of that is having doctors signed on, willing and knowing that they need to help later on in the case. So a lot of times deep into treatment, I will reach out to the expert witness and just say, look, there's a car accident case attached to this patient. I'm hoping that you, when time is needed, give us your opinions and give us your objective opinions. I'm going to ask you, what treatment do you believe to a reasonable degree of medical probability is related to the accident? What kind of treatment do you think they'll need going forward? And give us details about how the injury happened, the mechanisms of the injuries and things like that. And ultimately, in my mind, I'm going to be thinking, how are they going to testify at court? Now, I have heard a philosophy about reaching out to doctors mid-treatment and attorneys being afraid that a doctor may say, well, look, I'm treating this person, but I don't think it's related to an accident, or I'm treating this person, but I'm not willing to come to court. And so they hesitate to reach out to the doctors because they're afraid of getting a negative answer. And the answer to me is, and the reality is, I say, look, I'd rather know that bad news earlier rather than later. If we have a doctor that's not going to relate your treatment to the accident, then I'd want to know that up front, because I want to understand why that doctor is thinking the way they're thinking, because perhaps we're not evaluating your case right. Maybe it's a situation where your ongoing treatment is not related to the case, and we need to know that up front, because the last thing we want to do is spend a year in litigation where we know the medical side is not going to support that claim. The other thing is, if we want to know early on, is a doctor not going to be willing to help? Because if that's the case, then we need to bring in what we call independent medical doctors or independent medical examiners to take a look at your case with objective eye and then help us in court, write reports, and help us through litigation. And look, I would always prefer a treating doctor to help us out in your case. I want to have somebody that laid hands on you, and the original reason they laid hands on you was to get you better, not just to help you out in the case. That's preferable. But a lot of times it just doesn't happen. A lot of doctors just don't want to be involved in the litigation process, and until the law changes, I can't compel them to help out. And frankly, I don't know that I ever want to force a doctor into a courtroom when they don't want to be there, because I never know what they're going to say. The way to destroy your case is a doctor that's supposed to support us all of a sudden coming in saying, you know what, I don't want to be here, I don't believe this person, I think they're lying, and just to spite you. So I always want a treating physician when possible, but if I can't get that person, I need an expert earlier on so we can have them looking at you so they can give us whether or not they believe in your case. And again, if an expert independent doctor says, look, this is not a case that I believe your injuries are related to the treatment, I don't think you need future treatment, or something else is misaligned, again, I'd rather know that up front. The last thing I want to do is figure out that you have a, quote, bad case in front of a jury. We want to know this earlier on. It may mean that either we're not claiming as much as we would claim, or sometimes it may be that, hey, look, potential client, I just don't think that we'll end up being able to prove your injuries in the court. I feel bad for you. But in my philosophy, I'd rather be able to give a client that bad news before litigation rather than spending a year in litigation, thousands of dollars on litigation costs, the stress and time preparing for court, only to get there and then not be successful to the client. I think in addition to being injured, the only way to make it worse is to have to put you through that experience only not to be successful, only to either owe me money or have to reimburse for costs and things like that. So hopefully this video is helpful. Maybe you heard some information you may not want to hear, but at the end of the day, my job is to be straightforward with you so we can do the best you can to give you the best advice that we think is warranted. So if you want to have a call with us, give us a call, 703-570-4180. You can also check out our website, www.abreniolaw.com, where we've answered hundreds of questions. Some of the most common questions that we get as attorneys, and we shot a lot of videos on that as well, articles and things like that. So hopefully you find that useful. Until we talk, stay safe. Thanks.